What's up, guys? It's John with National Sports Entertainment, and I wanted to hit our weekend games, at least the early games. I looked at most of these games, and as I went into with my college videos, most of these games are going to be metrics. There's a few narratives I like, but playing the spread metrics really is the best way to go about this. It's what we did that made us do so well last year, and again, it's basically every sport. So I'm going to be sticking with that, and I also look at narratives, and I'll be going into that with tonight's game. We'll be doing a quick recap of the Chiefs Broncos. But yeah, I got most of the 1 o'clock, actually all the 1 o'clock games we'll be playing, and we'll have some, I'll have the 4s and the night games out, obviously. Still looking at Eagles Jets. That one's an interesting one. Raiders Patriots, Raiders, I think they're going to have, like I had said earlier this year, a better year than people think. Of course, the 1 week I pick them to lose, they won, but still an interesting one. So I'm looking at that one. Lions Bucks is another one. Could see that one going both ways. So the 4 o'clock games look a little tougher. I do have the night game already decided, and it's because nothing's going to change my mind on that one. So I'm going to go into all these games. So first off, good night is all I can say. We split our picks, but we got our more important one. We ran the under for 4 units as a leg 3 because the Broncos had not gone under all year. I think they were 4-1 maybe. They might have gone under once. But combined with the fact that they just had the Jets drop 30 on them and Zach Wilson and co. I understand it was mostly the defense that dropped those points, but that's even more damning. So I figured people would be all over the over. And we almost got the cover. We took the cover as a leg 2 for 2 units, so not as important of a play, but it would have been nice to get both of them for a nice little healthy gain. But of course, they backdoor covered us. This is twice now that Mahomes did this to us. And the last time we had him covering the Jets, and he decided to do the noble thing and run out of bounds at the 1 yard line. This time, basically the same exact circumstances, but then they're doing a couple passes, and they get themselves in a situation where, of course, Mahomes takes a sack where they kick a field goal instead of getting a few yards where they probably would have gone for it like last week. So it's interesting how basically the exact same results and we get, or the exact same situation, and this time the Chiefs do wind up getting the backdoor cover, but that's fine. That's why I was a little more intrigued by the under. It just seemed a little more obvious than the cover, which was a little closer, but that's why, again, it's so important to pick our spots, and again, using metrics, just playing the spreads, fading teams that are good on a certain aspect of the spread, seems to be, at least now we've done it for a while now. This season we've just started, obviously, because we're just getting to that part of the year. It's been pretty good. So I'm going to go into all of our games here, and I'll go into why I like them. Right off the bat, we're playing a few money lines just because I can definitely see some win no covers, and I don't feel like playing one of these. Like, for example, one I guarantee you, out of these 4s and these 2.5s, I guarantee you at least 2 of them, or we'll say at least, I think we have, how many we have total? We got 4 games with a 2 or 2.5 point spread. I guarantee you at least 1 or 2 of them we get a win no cover. And it's not by accident. It's definitely by design. So we've already been clipped on a few 1.5s, 2.5s. So I'm going to play them, but I'm going to also look for the best value. So right off the bat, I like the Ravens. Sure, a Titans win gets the conference nice and jumbled, but I don't think we want it this jumbled. I don't think we want every single team in it. And I think you have to make some teams look pretty strong. So you got the Chiefs looking strong. You got the Bills looking somewhat strong, and the Jags. And that's really about it. The Bengals are starting to maybe look like they might be doing something, but to me, especially in London, you got to have Lamar ball out. So normally I'd go with the cover here, but again, I could see a close 3-point game, something like that. The Titans always do that. So personally, I like the Ravens in a parlay, and I'm going to show that exact parlay in a second. So the Ravens money line is going to be in a parlay where we're going to be getting plus odds. I do like the Commanders. I like them straight up for the simple fact that they are, I feel like more people will be on the Falcons this game at home. I've gone to this before when you have two, not all the time, but a lot of times, when you have two equally, I guess, unimpressive teams play. And I think the Falcons are going to win the division, but they're still pretty mildly unimpressive. And one of them is at home. I feel like public is more likely to take the home team. And this is one I think it's very important for the Commanders. The NFC's establishing itself early on, and I think you got to keep the Commanders, Seahawks, Packers, all these teams pretty close to each other. So dropping the Commanders to 2-4 doesn't make sense to me. So the battle of Dion's two teams, I got the Commanders taking this one. And we got two more that are going to be in parlays. Like I said, instead of doing a bunch of covers, I'm doing two parlays that include 5 teams. So we got a 3-teamer and a 2-teamer to get plus odds too. The next two are pretty simple. I got the Bengals winning and I got the Jags winning. So I got a decent bit of home teams, as you can see, but in this case, again, I think the Jags have to start doing something. They can't just be a perennial 9-8 team, 10-7 team. I think they really have to start showing that Lawrence is an elite quarterback. And I think the Colts have done enough for people to definitely be taking them on the +4 and for the possible upset, especially a divisional matchup. So I like the Jags a lot. And I do like the Bengals. I think they're pulling the same script as last year. They could lose this game and be like, oh, wow, now they're 2-4. Can Burrow repeat last year, but it's even tougher now. But even starting, what were they, 1-3? It's basically the same idea. So I think they were 0-3, weren't they? So I think they start a little bit of a streak here. And again, people are probably enough on the Seahawks that they're not going to be hammering the Bengals in this game. So that's my last money line pick. Actually, I got one more, but it's really just a pad, these picks. All my next picks are going to be spreads because of, again, the metric, the against the spread. I got the Panthers covering the Dolphins. It's up to you if you want to buy the half point. I'm personally not. With my luck, it might be, but I don't think it's going to be exactly a 14-point game. The reason I love the Panthers here, and this is one of my favorite plays of the entire, actually it is, it's probably my favorite or second favorite play of the entire weekend, because the Panthers had yet to go over, and they're getting the same amount of points that the Giants were getting, and as bad as the Giants are, at least they have a quarterback who's proven he can play pretty decent at times. So I find it very, very odd that the Panthers are getting the same spread that the Dolphins got, or I'm sorry, the Bills got against, not the Bills, the Giants got against the Dolphins. So I love the Panthers to cover this spread. And I've gone into before with against the spread metrics, I go by the ESPN spread. So I think it was 14 when I officially locked my pick, but 13.5 is going to be, again, you could buy the half point if you really want to. I personally don't think it's going to make a difference. It's weird, but ESPN is like, again, it's like the AP for polling or for the election as far as these spreads. If you go to Action, if you go to the Against the Spread site, they're all going to match up perfectly with ESPN. Now, here's another one I like a lot, Vikings-Bears. For the simple fact, the Bears are the last team that have not gone under yet. Doesn't mean that they're definitely going to go under, but most teams, they're not going to sit there by themselves like 7-8-0 on and over, while the rest of the teams have at least 1 or 2 unders. It's just historically does not happen too much. Sure, you're going to have teams that are outliers, but you have to also have to look at what the public might be thinking. And you got a Vikings team who can score, even without Jefferson, they can score. And then you got a Bears team who just proven that they can score. They're coming off a couple weeks in a row where they put up some points. Last week, they obviously got their first win for Dick Butkus. And I thought about playing the Vikings winning this game because it would drop the Bears to 1-5, for Dick Butkus. He was number 51. But I'm just, again, for me, the metrics have been much better in the past than symbolism. So if I had to pick a team in this game, I would take the Bears for value. And because I think, the Vikings, because you're getting, with only -3, I think that's pretty good value. And the Bears could drop to 1-5. So I would lean Vikings, but again, I just really like the under in this game. Bears yet to go under all year. We just took the Broncos for that reason, and obviously it safely went under. So I think we're going to get basically the same thing. Now, this next one I'm taking because of how quick the line is moving. Makes me think they want people on the Browns. This line started at 5. There was a 5-point line for the 9. I don't know who might have gotten hurt. I'm imagining some guys, or there's just ridiculous money pouring in to almost double from the opening to the close. It might even close at -10. So I like the Niners for the cover here. To me, this line makes a lot more sense than the opening line. And when it's at 9.5, I don't see the upset value. I don't see people taking the Browns and winning. I don't think they're going to pay out that after they moved it from 5 to almost, again, double that. And I think getting almost double digits at home, people are probably going to be a lot more inclined to take the Browns than, obviously, if they're only getting 5 points. And again, I just done a video where I think they're going to build the Niners. I don't think this is hype. I don't think it's like the other teams where they're just looking unstoppable and then suddenly they get destroyed by a crappy team. I genuinely believe they're going to have the Niners in their own tier this year. And then every team's going to be trying to do their best to have a chance at beating them. That's just my opinion. So I do like the Niners to cover this 9.5-point spread. And Saints-Texans, probably again, I went over how Panthers was one of my favorite games. This is probably my favorite game of the week. I love the over here. Again, obviously it's fake, but they're making CJ Stroud look really good. So I'm not as concerned with the pace as I was. We had the Saints-Patriots going over, and it was going over. It was like 30-something, 31-0 in the third. And then, of course, the Saints just stepped on the brakes, and the Patriots did too. If in this type of game, you're not going to see the Texans, the young, fiery Texans, stepping on the brakes. So I do think that if it's close later on, it's not going to be a fourth quarter blank like the Patriots did to us. It just makes more sense from every perspective. Again, the Saints have not gone over all year. The only team that hasn't. I think they go over this game. Again, not picking a winner. It's a complete 50-50. If I absolutely had to, I'd probably lean Texans just because they are making Stroud look good. And I think they're going to keep the NFC South close. But no reason for it to play this game, in my opinion. And then the only 4 o'clock game I picked so far is Cardinals-Rams. I have the Rams winning, and I'm just attaching it to a parlay. Again, playing the cover here is a complete coin flip. I'd probably take the Rams cover. It's the reason I put them in the money line. Because when I see a spread like this, when the Cardinals just beat the Cowboys, yeah, the Rams got cut back. But again, I brought this up before. The Rams just sucked last year, and nobody questioned it. Like, they came off of a Super Bowl win. Barely lost anybody. It reminds me of the Vikings this year, and it just goes unquestioned. You know, at least the Vikings' excuse was, oh, well, they won a bunch of close games last year. Now they're losing all those close games. What are the odds, right? But the Rams-Cardinals, again, Rams didn't do anything to prove that they were a crappy team. So they keep all their main guys. I think they lost their running back after they won the Super Bowl. Cam Akers, they might have lost him. But, I mean, their team basically stayed the same. And then they just, the whole year last year, they're just like, yep, the Rams aren't the same team, accept it. And it just made no sense. So it seems like they're trying to show that the Rams are a pretty good team again. Maybe they're back to being marketable. I'm not sure. It could give us some information about the Chargers if the Rams start looking really good. But I see the -7, and I see people hammering the Cardinals trying to get that value, thinking, well, this is basically a 50-50. The Rams suck because we were told so last year. So if I had to, I would take the cover, but I'm taking the money line, and I'm going to show my exact play in a second. And I am playing because I could wait on the Sunday night game, but nothing's going to change my mind. Even though it's a lot of points. Last year, this happened where I would purposely take the team giving more than 2 scores, right? So the Bills are given 14.5. A lot of people probably see that and they don't want to lay that many points. So my logic was, okay, we're going to take the Bills minus 14.5. I did that a lot last year. But this year, again, I'm just going with my metrics. Because believe it or not, a lot of times when you would see that, a team giving up 16, 17, you would think, okay, they're going to easily cover it because no one's going to take them. And I'd say they only covered it about half the time. It was about 50-50. So when you get big handles like this, I would think the public would be all over the team giving the point. The team getting the points. But from what I noticed last year, a little bit this year, it really doesn't mean much. So while it is a lot of points and while people might be on the Giants, you have to remember, people also think that the Giants are complete garbage. and there's a good chance that people are going to still take Buffalo, maybe by the half point, assuming that they're going to win by 2 scores. If the Dolphins did it, the Bills can do it. Something to that effect. So I do like the Giants here to cover. Again, the Giants haven't covered a spread all year. There's only a handful of teams who haven't, so I think they get on the board there. Now, I might cut out for a second, but this is what I was going into before in my last video with college games, and it completely went silent. But I'm going in. Here's the records for against the spread last year. And look, I don't think this is a coincidence. Look who finished number one, 73.7%, the Giants. So even at the top, they only had 73%, and that's including a playoff game or two. So again, you're not going to have teams finish with like 1 or 2 losses against the spread or only 1 or 2 wins. It just doesn't happen. The worst team was Tampa at 23.5%. They got 4 wins against the spread. Now, the over-under, the same exact formula applies. And what's interesting about the over-under is we kind of have the same thing. If you look at Denver, they were 4-1 coming into tonight. And I had explained last year, I believe they were the worst team on the over. Okay, towards the end, they must have got it going. They were one of the worst teams, 6-11, and they just flip it around. And this year, they're going over all year. I think they do that on purpose. I don't think it could be a coincidence. But either way, there's not much to it. It's just if you look at the records against the spread, you can go back as far as you want. You're not going to see teams finishing undefeated or just 1 on the over-under or against the spread. That's why I like this metric so much. It's historically backed. So anyway, I'm going to go into... Now, here, if you missed my college video, it cut out a little bit too, so I wanted to make sure I got it right. We have most of these plays, almost all of them are metric plays. So again, by metric, it's just I literally just took teams that suck against the spread to cover or that sucked on the under, or whatever the case may be. So in this case, we have Vanderbilt, and it's, again, I already went into this, so I'm sure it might be redundant for a few people, but I thought I'd just quickly cover it again because the games are coming up, including one game that's technically tonight. Vanderbilt 7-0 on the over. Something's got to give. I think they're going under, so I went with the under. Pitt, I went with them because that was it's a shaky line. It really is. It's 7 points. A really good, Louisville's ranked. I believe they're undefeated. I went into this in my last video. I think a couple undefeated teams are going to lose. So Pitt over Louisville, Miami over University of North Carolina seem like solid picks. LSU hasn't gone under yet. Very simple. We have them going under. UMass, Penn State. Penn State's gone over almost every game. Utah's gone under almost every game, so we got them going over. It's just simple metrics. So I posted this in my last video in case you missed it. And then for tonight, we do have Colorado covering Stanford. I went into the narrative behind this game. They have not won in my opinion, a decisive game yet. They won a double overtime game. They won a couple 3-point games, and they lost. So I think you have to make Colorado look strong, and that's my logic. So if you didn't see my college video, here's all the picks. And again, almost all of them are metrics. Now, as I said, we do have some parlays. So again, I'll be adding the 4 o'clock games. But as I said, the first parlay I like, as you can see, is we have the Commanders beating the Falcons and the Bengals beating the Seahawks. I put them in the same parlay, and it's actually better than 210. It's going to be 250 because I made a small mistake. The Commanders are obviously plus 130 and not minus 130. So we're actually going to be getting better than 210. It's going to be closer to 250. But that was a little bit of a typo. Now you might ask, why don't I just edit and add, like for example, when we have certain sequences, I could just edit them instead of typing them all out and playing them again and again. For example, in the rig log here, all these sequences that we played, as you can see, why don't I just go back to sequence 71 and edit leg 2 in there, or when there's typos and things of that nature. The easy answer is because although this is the only that I can tell 100% transparent channel with when it comes to sports picks and things of that nature, if I were to, there might be that one undoubted person who says, hey, that's edited. How do we know what it originally said? They could have changed anything. So it is more tedious, but that's the reason I don't just edit and add picks. So I could just, again, for this Cardinals-Bengals loss, I could just add the leg 3 to this thread here, and it would be a lot easier. But the reason I don't do that is because, again, then people might see edited and then have questions. So I don't edit any of them. I just add on to them. So that's why I do it the way I do. If there's like a typo or something like that, I just make note of it. But to me, it's better than editing and then even one person thinking, oh, that's convenient. It's edited. How do we know? If you look at some of these guys' channels, when they put their picks out and stuff, they're all edited. It's pretty funny. So it's pretty easy to see through, too, for a lot of them. In my case, it would be just for making it a lot more simple. But I didn't do it last year, so I'm not going to do it this year. Every time I put up a pick or an update, I'm just going to add it on. I'm not going to edit it, so that way none of my posts will ever read edited, and it might just give some peace of mind. But again, so that's why I do that the way I do with the rig log. And again, it takes a little longer to type out, but it's fine. So back to our picks for tomorrow. We have, as I said, for the parlays, I like the Falcons to the Commanders to beat the Falcons and the Bengals to win both money lines. Going to pay a little better than 2-1. And the other one's a 3-team parlay. Got the Rams winning straight up, Jags winning straight up, and Ravens winning straight up. Parlays, again, a little riskier. I don't like to do a ton of them. But I guarantee you one of these teams that we went with is going to win and not cover. And guessing which team that's going to be is almost impossible. So I went with the 2 parlays. And the rest of our leg ones are the Niners to cover the Browns. I just added that one because I saw it move all the way from 5 to 9.5, and I think they want people on Cleveland. Bears, Vikings under, I went over. Bears haven't gone under all year. As I said, I love the Panthers. I don't get why they're only getting the same amount. I don't think the public thinks the Giants are as bad as the Panthers. That's just my logic. It could be wrong. But I think the public thinks, okay, at least the Giants have a guy who can throw the ball more than 4 yards. So I like the Panthers here to cover the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins will pull some shenanigans, and it'll wind up being a closer game than people expect. And the Giants cover Bills is also a leg. So all these are leg 2s. Not all of them, but a good chunk of them. And our leg 3 is going to be the Saints-Texans to go over. Again, that's my favorite play of the weekend. That's going to be for the one we just lost. We just missed the Broncos cover Chiefs as a leg 2. Again, luckily we got the leg 3. We got the under. To me, the under was just a little more obvious, so I went with the under here. So that one's a win, obviously. We'll be updating that. So still a decent night. Obviously, we win 4 units, lose 2 is a good night. But what we want to do is close this sequence with the Broncos covering the Chiefs. So since we lost that, I just added on to it the Saints-Texans to go over, and I think we will go over that game. I think the Saints will get their first over of the year. So it's nothing too crazy. Again, this is all numbers, but I wanted to go into the exact reason and, again, the increments of all of these games. Again, the sequence 85 is going to pay better than 2-1. It's going to be closer to 2.5 to 1 because a minus 130 to plus 130 flip is obviously a big deal, so it's going to pay a lot. I'll do the exact math, but it's going to be closer to, I'd say exactly like 265, something like that. We'll have to see, but the 210 is definitely lower than what it'll be. But yeah, I just did minus instead of plus on accident. So yeah, nothing too crazy here. Again, Colorado I went into, that's going to be a leg 3 because of the Dion narrative. I just don't think that if there's going to be a game they get a blowout, it has to be this one. So I'll be doing the 4 o'clock. Like I said, I already have the Rams in a parlay, so we already got the Rams covered. We could play them separately as a cover as well because I do think they'll cover. But I'll have the Lions, the Raiders, the Jets. I'll have those games out later. And If there's any college games I find, I can add them. But we have a good bit of plays now, so I don't think there's a need to look for games. I was looking at the Oklahoma State game. Thought they might beat Kansas. Looks like a little bit of a trap. Someone said USC is an underdog. Weird. They shouldn't be. So that looks like a little bit of a trap. So I might be posting another college game or two. But for the most part, I found all the college games I like. Again, that's in my last college video. The Colorado one, I got every game in there. It's the same as I just went over here. And then Cowboys Chargers is going to take me a little bit to think about. Obviously, depending on how teams in the AFC do, depending on how teams in the NFC East do, it's going to make a difference. Looking at this, I'm wondering if they go ahead and give it to the Chargers, because even after getting completely shellacked, it's still a pretty close line here, -2. They're pushing the fact that the Cowboys without Trey Diggs aren't the same, and you have two of the best receivers probably the best receiver tandem in the league on the Chargers, so they could definitely push that narrative. So again, it's a lot of its metrics. I get that. A lot of it's not like crazy narratives. I looked at the Vikings Bears, like I said. A Bears loss would drop them to 1-5 number of Dick Buckus. So I mean, there is that possibility, but I'm just not playing it. I personally much prefer the under, because I don't think the Bears are going to go over continuously. So, and I think people in this matchup are going to take Cousins isn't a scrub. And even with an injured Jefferson, I still think people will take the over, because you have two teams that have mostly gone over in their, if you're looking back last year, they had a lot of overs, the Vikings especially. So this one I like the Bears to finally get their first under of the year, and I think they will. And yeah, there's not much more to it. Like I said, the Jags, I could see that being a 3-point win. It kind of has 3-point win written all over it. It even looks like it might be an overtime game. The Ravens are in London, same deal. Definitely could get a 3-point game. And these Commanders game, this Bengals game, one of them is going to be like a 1-point game. I guarantee you. They always do this. They'll set a bunch of 2.5s, and usually at least one of them winds up being like a 1-point game. So 2.5 seems to be the new 3.5, where people are getting hooked. Even 1.5 people are getting hooked on, which is ridiculous, but it's happening. So for me, incorporating them in parlays for the money line is the way to go. And I have no doubt the Commanders are the only one that's more 50-50. I really don't see the Jags losing this game. I really don't see the Bengals losing. I really don't see the Rams losing. So that's the reason I use them as parlay boosters, if you will. I just wanted to do a recap. Technically, a good night. Anytime we win a leg 3 and lose a leg 2, I will take that. And I was actually only going to play the under, and then I'm like, people are going to want who I think is going to cover. And I did think the Broncos were going to cover. I thought we were going to see basically exactly what we saw, except at the very end, I thought Mahomes was going to sell it again. Like I said, he blew a backdoor cover for us against the Jets, and now he got a backdoor cover for us against the Broncos. So Mahomes, Swift, Kelsey, that combo seems to be fading us and just doing the opposite of what we need, but that's fine. I think, I think going forward, a lot of their games are going to be more narrative-based, the Chiefs, because I think week 9 they play Miami, and then after that they have a bunch of interesting games. Another fun fact, I haven't picked the Lions Bucks yet, but the Lions the Niners, I have them winning the Super Bowl. Been completely over the target on this team, and I have not picked the correct Niners result yet. We are 0 for 5, I believe, on picking the Niners, because on a lot of games, they just look weird. Like when they played the Steelers and it was 3.5, I just assumed the entire world was going to be on the Niners. But as I always say, narratives reign supreme, so if they want to make the Niners look untouchable, it doesn't matter who's going to be on them, who's going to be fading them. They're still going to have them do what they need them to do. But the fact that this moved from 5 to 10 almost, again, makes me really like the Niners for the cover. And the Lions, like I said, we haven't missed the Lions yet. So there are anti-Niners. Every time we've picked the Lions, we've been right. Even straight up money line victories like against the Chiefs. So this one looks a little trappish, so I'm just thinking on it if they're going to have Baker really look good, move to 4-1. The Lions don't need this win. Actually, a loss makes it more interesting. because it keeps them closer to the division. But as I said earlier this year, I have a feeling the Lions are going to win the division by quite a bit. And the other teams are going to be really just the Packers fighting for a wild card spot. So I'm going to stick with my preseason intuition that the Lions have a really good year. Vikings have a bad year. And it's not really going to be an issue of week 17, week 18, Lions fighting for the division. I think they're going to have it in hand. So yeah, it's nothing, I always say, but it's nothing crazy. Just in a lot of cases, Panthers game, Vikings game, Saints game. We did it in the Broncos game, Giants game. Most of these are going to be metrics, but on some other ones, I went with the narratives because obviously they do like their narratives. Some suspicious lines again. I just can't justify the Panthers here. I understand you can't give a team like 30 points, but they're in Miami, and Miami just easily covered the Giants. Giants getting 14 against the Bills. It's just weird to me. And technically, the Panthers aren't even getting as much as the Giants are getting. So, of all the games, they haven't covered a spread yet. Like I said, I really think the Panthers are going to go ahead and get that first cover. So this one could definitely be one of these weird backdoor covers where it's like a 33-21 type game or something like that. I could definitely see that happening. So another play that I really like. So that's all of our plays. Again, I have all of our college plays as well. So we're looking at like 20-something plays when it's all said and done this week. And I think we're going to do really good. We hit 60% on college last week. Obviously, we were under 50% on the NFL. But we did pick 4 underdogs straight up. And I think we got 4 underdogs straight up. We went with 6 of them or something like that. So, of course, picking a lot of dogs, we're not going to have as high of a hit rate. It's all about our profits. So, for this one, obviously, the most important is going to be the Saints to go over. I think they do. Saints, Texans, both, it's 42.5 right now. So, that's about right. And they just couldn't go over 39, I think it was. So, there's a good chance that people are going to see that and take the under. So, yeah, the over here and the Panthers cover, the Giants cover are my favorite plays so far. And that's why they're leg 2s and leg 3s. But it's really, I think you'll see as the season goes on how crazy the against the spread metric is. Every team just seems to fall perfectly into, again, that 40 to 60% range. And then you have a few outliers that'll finish in like the high 20s, the low 70s. But it's very, very rare that you even see that. Usually it's like clockwork with the way these teams finish against the spread. I still think it's like some kind of unspoken rule. Because even like the worst college teams ever, if you go back in history, they somehow get blown out every game, but they'll cover one spread. It's pretty crazy. So there's a reason I'm very, I guess strict is the word you can use about that metric. It works really, really well. And I tried to parlay the ones that just look like traps where people are going to say, okay, if the Bengals win, it'll be 2.5. And then they wind up winning by 2. Like, that's the kind of stuff that I'm trying to avoid. So that's why we have that as parlay. So look at the picks for anyone that might have missed them. Again, the Saints are the most important one. They're all important, of course, but we want to hit our leg 3s and close out the sequences. We miss a leg 2, we still got another crack at it. So I try and reserve my absolute favorite for leg 3. And I try not to run too many leg 3s at once. Again, we don't have that many open sequences anyway. I ran back all the way to the beginning, obviously, sequence 1. And we have very, very few open sequences. So that's another reason I can't create leg 3s if we don't have a leg 2. So that's actually a good thing, obviously, because we want as few leg 3s as possible. We really want to be on leg 1s, giving us 3 shots at it. I only do leg 3s to close the sequences that we need to close. So the Broncos, unfortunately, didn't get it done by half a point, so we got to run a leg 3. But, again, I'm not worried at all. I think this game is definitely going to go over, just like the Broncos easily went under tonight. And, again, it's because of, you see, we had them going under last week as a leg 1. They didn't. That's kind of why I run this system. You can, I don't like to use the term chase, but it is what it is. You can chase teams that are really bad against the spread, and you got 3 cracks. And we got the Broncos on the second crack. I made it a leg 3, but Like last week I played it as a leg 1, and then this week I played it for a leg 2 loss, the Broncos to go under again, and they did. So we played the Saints last week to go over. They did not. We're sticking with it. I think this week they will get the over. That's why I made it a leg 3. And again, the leg is just how many units we're betting. There's only 3 legs. Sometimes in the past I've done 4 legs. Not advisable, because then you're looking at a 15-unit loss if you lose it. And while it can be rewarding, it has to be really good value and almost a guaranteed lock of a game to make me do a leg 4 nowadays. But yeah, it's a safe leg 3. We have a total, I think, of 3 leg 3s because we have the Saints, Texans going over. It might just be 2 because I know we have Colorado. No, it is 3. Vandy's our third leg 3. I like Vandy to go under. So again, for our leg 3s, I don't expect to hit them all, but I'd be more than happy with a 2 out of 3 split, which I think we will get. Missing them all obviously is not fun, and that's happened before, but I don't think that's going to happen here, especially with the spread metric. As you can see, all 3 of these. Actually, the only one that's not a spread metric is Colorado covers Stanford. To me, this is just an obvious game. We've been white hot with Dion lately, so I think that continues. And yeah, I just think people are going to be a little more apprehensive to slam Colorado, giving up double-digit points when they've barely proven they can win games against average teams by more than 3. So to me, this is the game they get Dion looking hot again, rolling into some of the bigger Pac-12 rivalry games. It makes sense that Colorado goes ahead and wins this game. It's on Friday the 13th, which is interesting. I usually have really good luck on Friday the 13th. I don't know what it is. So we'll see if that continues. And that's our play. That's technically tonight. So, yeah, our only play tonight is going to be Colorado cover Stanford. And then all the rest are going to be for the rest of the weekend, of course. And a couple I have straight up wins, as you can see. Again, I already went into this, but that video is cutting out a lot, so I thought I would just go back into it. So between NFL, we got a good bit of plays. We got hockey starting soon. That's going to be fun. And I do like, it's interesting the Devils play Friday the 13th, so you can keep that in mind. But yeah, I think we have a good weekend. And like I said, luckily we went with the Broncos under leg 3 instead of the cover. The cover, I should have made it leg 1. I was really thinking about it, but I thought 10.5. I thought we were going to get that clip. I thought we were going to get the half. It obviously wound up we got clipped. And again, that happens sometimes, but that's why I do the system the way I do. And I know it's a little bit longer, but the reason I do it this way is, like I said, I could just edit these sequences and add on to them. But then if somebody reads and sees, oh, edited, I don't want to be like every other channel who wants to pretend that they're right all the time and never admits when they're wrong. So it takes a few more minutes to type it out, but I'd rather not edit my posts so people can see that they are definitely 100%. They were posted ahead of time and they were posted accurately without being changed. So, not to be too long-winded, but when we're covering dozens and dozens of games, it takes a little bit to go into them. Not a ton of narratives this week. That's why, again, I'm sticking with mostly my spread metrics. We got a few narratives. We had a narrative tonight, the Chiefs move into like 16 straight games that they won or something against the Broncos. So, again, I knew they were going to win. I just thought it would be an under, no cover, a game where Mahomes sold, and he did sell the over. They could have scored 40 points if they wanted to, but obviously they got that last-minute field goal, so they got the cover. And like I said, I think you'll be a little impressed if you haven't watched last year and you're not familiar with spreads, especially as college basketball rolls around and you see I know nothing about these teams, and we're hitting 65% on it. I think you'll be pretty interested with how the spreads work. It's twofold. I do it because, A, historically it's never happened where you've had handfuls of teams with a record against the spread. And B, someone sees a team someone sees the Saints and it sees that they have not gone over all year. They're more likely to say, okay, if they think it's real, of course, okay, this team sucks at getting overs, I'm taking the under. So there's 2 reasons I like my spread theory, and it has worked really well so far, so we're going to continue it. So I'll add the 4 o'clock games I didn't have, Lions, Jets, and Maybe we'll play the Rams cover. We'll look into that, obviously. Patriots will be a good game. And I might be adding USC and Kansas State games because I do think, or Kansas versus Oklahoma State, because I think USC is playing Notre Dame. They both look trappish to me. Kind of akin to the Pittsburgh, Miami games I went with. If the line looks like a trap, then usually I'll take it. Somebody brought up to me that USC are underdogs. I didn't think they would be, but I guess they are. So expect that game maybe to be out later, along with my 4 o'clocks. If I think the line looks right or just doesn't look worth playing, we're not going to play it just to play it. But if USC looks like they should be favorites and they're not, we'll probably be playing them to win outright. I'm sorry, to lose, because if they're getting plus odds, people are going to be pounding them. So I found that interesting. So yeah, not to be too long-winded, I want to re-go into all of the college games just because, again, my last video was cutting out when I went into the spread site. I know it can be very annoying, so I just try and stay on one site here, and it seems to do better. But yeah, don't forget Colorado. They're going to be tonight. I was looking for alternate lines. I can honestly see them winning by like 20, but my book wasn't offering them. If you wanted to sprinkle something on an alternate line for them to win by 18 or more, whatever it is, I don't know what the alternate line is going to be. I think they're going to win by a good amount. I think the Boulders are going to give a nice little prison pounding to the Cardinals. That's just my opinion. Actually, I think it's the Stanford Cardinal, which I just realized the other day, which I found interesting. So either way, I think Stanford's getting smashed, which would be a great start to our weekend because we only have 3 leg threes. So to nail one of them, actually, we have 4 leg threes. We already hit one. So if we're able to hit this one, it means we hit 50% of our leg threes, hit our first 2, with the other 2 being the Vandy under and the Saints over. So a Colorado cover would be really nice, a really good start to the week. That and the Broncos under combination would be a really good start to the week. So like I said, I usually get pretty lucky on Friday the 13th. I'm hoping that continues.